The number of heat-related deaths, think about this, it's more than the combined total of deaths by tornadoes, hurricanes, and flooding. We hear a lot about tornadoes. We're afraid of tornadoes. They're dangerous. And flooding. And hurricanes. If you live in the southeast part of this country, you try to go north if you get up the highway. We don't hear much about heat-related deaths. But more people die from heat than from all these other natural disasters. People can die when their electricity is shut off in the summer during 95-degree and above days. I was in South Carolina a couple of years ago in the summer. I drove back home through Tennessee. The temperature was very close to 90. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It was near 100 degrees all day in a car. It was terrible. The air conditioner was working, fortunately. Man, people can die when their electricity is shut off in 95-degree days. In this state, in summer, the number of electric service disconnections may increase if more customers are unable to pay their bills. So if the power's shut off, how do you use a fan? What difference does it make where your thermostat's set on the air conditioner? It won't work. You just suffer. Food costs more when supply is lower. Eggs, for raise an example, corn and soybean yields are inverse to temperature. More summer heat means less crops to harvest. Less crops means less food. Less food means higher prices on top of the electric bill. Meanwhile, conflicting market signals are being sent to customers. My house, before I got there, had a gas furnace, gas water heater, gas clothes dryer. They've all been converted to electricity now. We use an electric cold weather heat pump that works when it's below zero outside. I tested it last year in January. It's amazing. We use a heat pump for heating and cooling. We have a heat pump water heater that plugs into a 120-volt wall outlet for hot water. We have a heat pump clothes dryer. We have on-site solar energy, power all these appliances. Federal tax credits reduce, this is the signal part. Federal tax credits reduce the cost of heat pumps. So I pay part of it. I get part of it back, the tax credit. Duke has rebates for appliances that use electricity rather than gas. Now why are they doing that? So we use more electricity, and we'll pay the electric company for it. Now the same electric company wants to burn methane to provide electricity for heat pump operation. It's confusing. Growth of customer-owned distributed generation. Growth located near its point of use should be encouraged. When's the last time who ever did that? I'd like to see it the next time. Most of the energy from parking canopies and rooftop solar is used on site, right where it's generated. Much of the electricity from large power plants, like this one, is lost before it gets to the customers. It's called line loss. It doesn't get there. It dissipates. And transmission lines are vulnerable to tornadoes and terrorist attacks. One of the biggest risks in this country is domestic terrorism. people like me who were in the military and got trained on how to kill people and use explosives and be comfortable with that. They come back home, they can't get a job, they're unemployed, don't have money. So what do? They use the skills that the government taught them, and they come back and they blow up things. So if you think that's science fiction, look at Ukraine. What are the Russians doing over there? The number one target is the power of grid. Russians are intelligent sometimes. They understand that. So Duke's climate action plan seems to be to burn more coal and gas at a time when corporate earnings are high and executive pay for some of them is excessive. It's embarrassing that what we pay in the electric bill pays so much money to a few people in North Carolina. The company is not pursuing a more balanced Indiana portfolio with environmentally sustainable sources of electric generation that is more affordable. That means it costs less and with less financial risk to customers. Meanwhile, electric utility companies generally, and this one in particular, operate in a low-risk market. That means they can't lose. Every time they build something like this, they're guaranteed a return on equity. If they spend $100 million, they get to keep $10 million for the company. The dividend to shareholders is 3.5%. That's a pretty good investment for an investor. And the stock price is near an all-time high. Not that long ago, I thought about buying new stock when it was 60 and 70 and 80 and 90 and $100. It just kept going up and up and up. I could not bring myself to seriously contemplate that action. I just couldn't. Now it's $120 a share and going up, and the rest of the market is going down. The rest of the market, the big market, dropped like 20% last week. Duke didn't drop that much. So, for people in the energy regulation business, you may have noticed that some of your peers in other states are considering mid-single digit, 4%, 5%, 6% as a reasonable return on equity for a business in a low-risk market. Something to think about. And I thank you again for coming and listening. This is an important topic. You're providing a valuable public service. I hope you stay healthy and no accidents going on.
Thank you. I'm going to call 3 people up. One to the podium, Dan Price. And Your Honor, Mr. Price has not been sworn in. The other people, Nancy Gazwani and Angela Glom.
Good afternoon. My name is Dan Price.
Mr. Price, will you raise your right hand, please, to be sworn? Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you will provide today will be the truth and nothing but the truth? Thank you. Mr. Cashin.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Price, if you could please state and spell your name for the record.
Dan Price, D-A-N-P-R-I-C-E. Some years ago, when my father was a child, this would be in the late 20s and early 30s, an important wintertime activity was cutting firewood. The idea was to enter the wood, the winter, with enough wood to make it through that winter, and during the winter, you cut wood then for the following winter. Now, in order to do that, you needed a pile of firewood that was roughly the size of the house that you're heating. Modern electric storage mechanisms, we would prefer to be somewhat smaller than that. And the way to make a battery store more is to use a more volatile medium, which typically means more toxic, more combustible, more explosive. And so for every house, say for in my household, for example, if I had a battery that would enable me to use 100% of my own electricity without a grid connection, that would be a battery, something say the size of a refrigerator, that would be roughly a bomb, a small bomb in my basement. Imagine every house in Bloomington having a bomb in the basement. That would be, and these are in homes that are owned by people who don't understand how the thing works or how to properly operate or maintain it. It's not really a good idea. But I would like to suggest an alternative vision for the electric company. If the electric company were to transition from the electric generation company to the electric storage company, these batteries would be housed in purpose-built facilities. They would be operated and maintained by professionals who know what they're doing and how to operate them properly. All the relevant health and safety issues would be tended to. Now this, and then homeowners like myself, we could have solar panels on our roof and use grid storage, which is what I now use. During the bright part of the day, I'd be sending power off to Duke, and during the night, they'd be sending it back. Now, I'd have to pay for that, of course, so obviously grids, net metering would not be possible under that situation. But I'd be paying for a service that would be worth paying for. And as Mady testified earlier, 100% of her household electricity comes from solar panels. And we could all do that, or most of us could anyway. And Duke themselves does have solar farms or wind farms that it can add to that. But the primary purpose then of the electric company would be to store electricity rather than to generate it. And that would be cheaper, it would be safer, and it would be environmentally wonderful. That's my vision for electric power generation.
Thank you. Angela Blum. Have you been sworn in?
No.
Okay. I believe the last three speakers that I have not been sworn in, Your Honor. So I'll ask Angela, Nancy, and Stephen Vigdor to please stand up.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you will provide today will be the truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor. Can you please state and spell your name for the record, please?
My name is Angela Blum, and my first name is Angela. My last name is G as in girl, Lomm as in mother. And I would like to say that I am here mostly because I worked as a volunteer for the St. Vincent de Paul Society for over a decade. And my job as a volunteer was to share our donations that came to us with people living in poverty. And I cannot tell you how many times I helped send a check to Duke Energy on behalf of someone in our community that could not pay for their electricity. Many times their electricity was cut off. We would work with the township and with other nonprofit agencies to piece together enough money so that they could pay their bill and pay reconnection fees and a deposit. And none of the township would not help with deposits. there was not, that was something that we helped with. I would like to echo Hobie Strasburg's comment that this hearing is not at a time when people who are working can attend. And I also want to say that advertising in the newspapers for people living in poverty is just, they can't afford that. That is not even on the radar. It needs to be on the radio at least so that other people can come. And I want to say that I really appreciated, for years there was the energy help for reducing energy use, and participated in providing light bulbs and all kinds of things for saving electricity. I participated in those things being distributed through the South Central Community Action Program to people living in poverty. When I helped people with deposits, many of them lived in housing where the insulation was very, very poor. And so people who had a home or an apartment that was half or a third the size of my house, they were paying 3 times as much as I was paying in electric costs. And so it's really imperative that since Duke is a company that operates as a monopoly in our area, that they participate with the government in providing for the public good. And the public good does not only include those who can pay for energy costs, but our neighbors that cannot. And so I really want to see, my husband comes from a small town in Germany where there were, 6,000 people. When I first started going there 40 years ago, there were no solar panels on any of the homes. Now, almost every house in that tiny town where he comes from has solar panels. And I just really think that our government and our community can do better. And since Duke is allowed to operate as a provider of electricity in our community, that they be held responsible for participating with the government in a type of provision of electricity that is just, and I just really hate to see the higher costs for our community. There's got to be a way that we can do better. Thank you very much.
Thank you. If you could please state and spell your name for the record.
Oh, sure. My name is Nancy Goswami, Goswami. First of all, I'd like to thank everyone for being here today. I don't have a statement prepared because I was gardening and someone texted me and reminded me that this hearing was today. I'm growing up in Louisiana. I remember the summers were hot, but not so unbearably hot that we couldn't go outside and enjoy the summer. As kids, we spent most of our time outside. Now, the average temperature in Louisiana, where I'm from, summer temperatures can be an average of heat index 110, 115 degrees, which is pretty hot if you've never experienced that on, like day after day for months. It's unbearable and it's dangerous. My husband, who happens to be from India, some of their temperatures are soaring up to 125, 130 heat index in the summertime. And I went there years ago, one time in the summertime, and I said, never again, I will not ever go there. So I understand what hot weather is. I've experienced it. When I moved to Indiana in 2008, I thought, oh, what a relief. The summer summers are wonderful. We rarely used our air conditioner when we moved here. I thought, wow, this is amazing. But over the years, it's getting hotter here. We use our air conditioner most of the summer. There's just a very couple of, just a few weeks that we don't use our air conditioner now. So our planet is heating up, and that is undeniable. We cannot continue to deny that. Now, I'm not trying to be facetious here, but I'm just wondering, do you guys live off planet? Or do you plan on living off planet in the next decade or so? Or maybe getting your children off planet? Because what are we setting up for them? I have 3 kids, 25-year-old triplets. They mean the world to me. I just don't know what you tell your children or your grandchildren. How can you justify that we just continue to ignore the fact that our planet is getting hotter? What do you tell them? And for what? For profit? I think, was it Noam Chomsky said that, what is the word for someone that continues to take up more money and continue to overstuff their pockets? When all the trees are dead, the streams are polluted, the air is polluted, we can't grow food because it's so hot, we can't eat money, and right now it's just basically numbers on a computer. So I'm asking you to really look inside yourself. We cannot deny that our planet is getting hotter and polluted. What kind of planet are you setting up for your children and your grandchildren? You need to really seriously do some soul searching, because they're counting on you to create a planet that is livable for them. Right now, we don't have another planet. There's no planet B. This is all we've got. This is it. And we need to protect and save what we have, that we know we have. Continuing to pollute it is not sustainable. Thank you.
Thank you. Stephen Vigdor. If you could please state and spell your name for the record.
Yeah, Stephen Vigdor, S-T-E-V-E-N, last name V-I-G-D-O-R. I'm a retired physics professor at Indiana University and a resident of Bloomington. I am very familiar with the data and the research that's going on climate change. The climate is going to start changing non-linearly within the next couple of decades as we pass various tipping points, such as that for melting the Greenland ice sheet. It is, quite frankly, at this point, insanity to add fossil fuel burning capacity. It is insane and immoral, no matter what our president says, no matter what the Indiana State Legislature says. The Indiana State Legislature in the last century tried at one point to define the mathematical symbol pi to be exactly equal to 3. Right now, they're trying to define natural gas as clean energy. They can define whatever they want. It is not clean energy. Methane is a much more impactful greenhouse gas than carbon dioxide. So adding fossil fuel at this point is just dumb. I'm sorry. It is not what should be done. In the meantime, there is enormous research going on in the improvement of the efficiency of solar panels. The next generation, which is coming very soon, of solar panels will have substantially higher efficiency because they use a sandwich of different materials that operate on different parts of the electromagnetic spectrum. There are ways to improve energy production without using fossil fuels. Adding fossil fuel to attract data centers is a fool's errand. The data centers will attract jobs for construction. They have very few jobs when they're running, and they are terrible for the communities where they're built because they are enormous drains on both energy and water. So it really makes no sense. The other thing that I will say is that I have a fundamental objection based on personal experience to utility companies requiring customers to pay for projects that are not built yet. I spent 6 years living in Suffolk County on Long Island while I was working in a national laboratory there. We paid 3 times the electricity costs of neighboring counties because we were continuing to pay for a nuclear power plant that was abandoned decades earlier and never used, and we continued to pay the electricity costs despite the fact that the utility company never made any use of the project. So really this project is the wrong way to go at this point in time. And if Duke Energy doesn't realize that, they will suffer once this administration is changed. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Ray Houseman. I apologize if I can't read your first name. I'm so sorry.
Are you looking for Peg House?
I believe I am, yes.
Okay.
And Your Honor, Dr. Houseman needs to be sworn in.
Yes, thank you.
Will you please raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you will provide will be the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
This will be short. I noticed that a lot of the testimony was talking about Indiana, I'm talking about Bloomington.
I'm sorry, could you please state and spell your name for the record?
Oh,
before you
sure.
begin? Thank you.
Dr. Peg Houseman is P-E-G-H-A-U-S-M-A-N. If you need my legal name, it's Margaret, M-A-R-G-A-R-E-T. Nobody understands how that happened, but anyway, I'm going to give a short testimony here because I just noticed that people were talking, we're focused rather locally, and people might respond to that, well, yeah, but Indiana's just different from other places, and you know, we can't do what other places do, but it might be useful to look at what the other places are doing. Internationally, there are a lot of countries that are increasing their use of renewables, especially wind and solar, at a rapid pace. In 2012, Sweden reached their target of 60% renewable energy 8 years ahead of schedule, putting them on track to reach their 2040 goal of 100% fossil-free electricity production, using a combination of wind, bioenergy, solar, and even body heat. See, Denmark already gets 2/3 of its energy from wind and solar. In recent years, 3 countries, Denmark, Uruguay, and Namibia, have expanded use of wind and solar for energy at a rate of 6% a year, or 7% in the case of Denmark, which is awfully fast. And Uruguay, between 2013 and 2018, increased its wind power from 1% to 34% of its energy mix. And if you're thinking, well, those are wild-eyed liberal countries abroad, I might add that 3 states in the United States get more than half their energy from a combination of wind and energy. Kansas gets 52% of its energy from wind and solar. South Dakota from 61%, and Iowa 65% from wind and solar. And none of those are wild-eyed liberal states. You also have New Mexico at 50%, Colorado at 41%, Oklahoma at 41%, Texas at 30%, and it goes like that. There's an awful lot of gold in them dark clouds, and we need to take advantage of it instead of locking ourselves into an energy source that is, dead dinosaurs, and that gets more and more expensive the longer we continue to use it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Your Honor, I don't have any more sheets. Should we take a break to see if anybody else would have the opportunity to speak?